As of this recording, SummerSlam is come and gone, and now we are moving on to Raw in the Thunderdome. But there's nothing really wrong with SummerSlam. SummerSlam was a really good pay-per-view. It was pretty solid from start to finish. Yeah, there were some matches that were actually pretty slow. There were some matches to where, the booking was a bit weird. But overall, it was a really good pay-per-view. But there were some things on that pay-per-view that left a very sour taste in my mouth. And I gotta bring them out here. The first one and the biggest one is definitely Sasha's loss to Asuka. Now, yes, I am a Sasha fan. I absolutely love Sasha Banks. I am a huge Sasha fan. But it's not so much my fandom that's getting in the way here. The one thing that bothered me was the fact that Sasha Banks, her reigns have been so incredibly short. And I think that my friend Irvin actually said it best when he called it the microwavable championship reign that lasts only 2 minutes. Well, he just said the microwavable championship reign. And I think that's hilarious because it's kind of true. Sasha Banks' title reigns have always been 2 weeks or less. It has never been a full month. It's never been 6 months. And it's just been only 2 weeks. She's had the championship for a very short time. And she ended up having to give it up instead of Bayley. Bayley has had the SmackDown Women's Championship for nearly a year. How come it had to be Sasha? Now, and my friend Irvin actually pointed this out in his video. That he said that you can't really cry racism because they actually did treat a few minority champions pretty well. Naomi is definitely an example. She actually had the belt for nearly 6 months. And she had her own custom-made belt. I mean, it wasn't sold in stores. I wish it was. But unfortunately, it wasn't. But she had her own custom-made belt as well as being champion for 6 months. Kofi Kingston had a 6-month title reign as WWE champion. So we really can't cry racism when it comes to that. But it's just for some reason with Sasha, she's always having these 2 week or less title reigns, and it just bothers me. How come it wasn't Bayley? The fact is that Bayley and Asuka has a strong history. The fact that Asuka actually choked out Bayley. Bayley never tapped out or anything, but she lost. She could never beat her. It made more sense for it to be Bayley than it would be to be Sasha. Plus, Bayley's fault for Sasha's losing is a bit weak. I mean, she got bumped off. She got bumped off the railing. So technically it really wasn't Bayley's fault, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that it had to be Sasha. I really wish that it was Bayley because Bayley had it for a long time. And people are like, well, Sasha doesn't really need the championship. Honestly, she kind of does because it's becoming a joke now. It's becoming an inside joke that Sasha Banks can't hold the belt for more than 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, I just lost the belt to Sasha. Oh, don't worry about it. You're going to be fighting her in 2 weeks. You'll get it right back. It's a running joke now. It's practically a meme. And that's the sad part. How can you call her the legit boss when she can't hold on to the belt for that long? This hurts me as a fan, but I gotta be real here. How can you call her a legit boss no matter how good that match was? And to be honest with you, her match was far better than Bayley's. And it's not because I'm a fan, it's because it was hard-hitting and brutal. But she lost the title when she had it just for a short period of time. She barely had it for a month. And that's the one thing that bothers me the most. It's always happening to Sasha. It rarely happens to anybody else. And it should have happened to Bayley. It should not have happened to Sasha. But moving on to the next topic at hand is definitely The Fiend. The Fiend is starting to become like every other wrestler on the roster, and that's what bothers me. The Fiend himself is very unique. He's very interesting, and yeah, of course, he's very twisted, but he's a fragile character. The smallest thing can mess up his character. The fact that you had Braun Strowman discover him during the Firefly Funhouse skit is just not disturbing, but it's annoying, because Seth Rollins did that, but Seth Rollins burned to the ground. Now you have Braun Strowman pretty much kind of making his way to the Firefly Funhouse with no clues how to get there, beating the crap out of Bray, tossing him to the side, and then putting him in the ambulance only for him to come out as the Fiend. And the problem is, the Fiend he's out there way too often. It's supposed to be special when you see him. Just like how when you see Demon Balor, it's supposed to be a special event. The same thing with the Fiend. You see him for a reason. You don't hear his interest all the time. That's why it's a treat to hear it. But now he's becoming like everybody else. It's nice that he got the belt back, but what bothered me the most, and it's not because of Roman Reigns' return. I'm happy to see him. It was him beating up both of them. It made more sense for him to go after Braun because he's got more beef with Braun than he does with Bray. So I'm like, how come he just couldn't go after Bray? And then that also leads me into something else. Beforehand, no Alexa Bliss? Like, no Twisted Bliss? No Sister Bliss? None of that? Like, we're not going to see any connection. That she was an integral part of the entire feud. And she's the one that actually captured the interest of everybody who was interested in this feud. Nobody really cared much about Braun. But the fact is, of what was going to happen between him, Alexa Bliss, and The Fiend, would she become twisted? Would she go against him? We didn't even see that. That's what bothers me. I'm like, she was such an interesting part of that story, and we didn't even see that. We didn't even see what happened. And it was a bit of a bummer. And it was also, like I said, it was a bit of a bummer that Roman Reigns beat them both up. I wish, and this is my own personal booking here, this is how I would pretty much book this whole thing. After The Fiend wins the championship, and of course you see Roman Reigns come out. Roman Reigns attacks Braun Strowman. The Fiend is back on his feet. He looks directly at Roman Reigns, and he does the same exact thing that Roman Reigns does. I mean, the same exact thing that he did to Braun Strowman. He waves at Roman Reigns, bye-bye. The lights go out, and he's gone. The lights come back on, and Retribution is around the ring. Now, trust me, I do not like this faction as much as the next person. But it makes sense here. The reason why I say this is because if Roman Reigns has returned to claim his yard, who has been destroying the yard the most? Retribution. Retribution has been considered a joke since their debut. We have no idea who the leader is. We have no idea what the reasoning is, why they're doing what they're doing. It would make sense to reveal the leader here. Now, of course, the rumors were that Dominik Dijakovic and also Tommaso Ciampa was supposed to be the leaders of this group. But since Tommaso Ciampa announced that he was going to be making a return soon, and we didn't see Dominik Dijakovic, we talk about him being injured, this is who I would have as a leader. You would have everybody in Retribution attack Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is clocking him out right and left, knocking him down. A few of them trying to beat him up, but then of course he does the whole Superman thing, and then just starts beating people up. And then here he is, face to face with the leader of the group. And that leader is none other than the Velveteen Dream. Here's why I picked the Velveteen Dream. He's the most hated guy right now on Twitter, as well as the most hated guy probably behind the scenes. Why not use all that heeldom and make him a heel? A 100% fully fleshed out heel, and bringing him up to the main roster. Make him the head of Retribution. He has enough charisma. He has enough flair. He can actually pull it off, at least in my opinion. You have them going face to face. You have the Dream versus the Big Dog. It's something interesting. Now I know, like, well, you're rewarding him for doing what he did. Now I am not going into the whole issue of Velveteen Dream, because to be honest with you, according to Triple H, they have found nothing, and I am going by that. So I am not going by any hearsay when it comes to that. I am going by the facts that I've heard, saying that they actually did pursue it and they found nothing. So I'm going by that. But Velveteen Dream will probably be the best villain, since he's pretty much considered a villain now. Why not capitalize on it? But anyway, y'all, this is pretty much how I would book the ending to SummerSlam. But as for Sasha Banks, I don't think it should have been her. I think it should have been Bayley. I think Bayley should have lost the championship. And I think Sasha should have been the one to actually hold it for once, because it would have meant more for it being a SummerSlam and a Big Four pay-per-view. Because let's be honest, she hasn't had her WrestleMania moment yet. She hasn't had her Big Four pay-per-view moment yet. It would have made more sense for her to keep the title, because it would have been a bigger moment for her. And I know a lot of people are like, well, she don't really need it. Yes, she does. Because whether people understand it or not, Sasha Banks has a lot more to prove than you think.